Hi everyone, my name is Youssef and I'm a solutions engineer at Snowflake. Today I'm going to show you how you can build a complete end-to-end data flow between Snowflake and HubSpot with no code required. So in the next few minutes, we'll dive into three main steps. First, we'll show you how you can set up a live data share from HubSpot into Snowflake. Second, we'll use a Snowflake worksheet to perform transformations and analysis on that live HubSpot data. And then finally, we'll show you how you can sync Snowflake tables back into HubSpot. So let's get into it. HubSpot UI and take a look at the source datasets that we have available, such as contacts, companies, leads, and deals. This is the crucial information that we would like to have synced with our Snowflake platform, both structured data and unstructured data. In order to establish this connection, first we're going to find the Snowflake data sharing application. And then here I'm going to click on install, and this is going to prompt a pretty straightforward process that ultimately will create the connectivity between the two platforms. It only asks for two pieces of information. The first one is the region in which your Snowflake account is based, and the second one is the Snowflake org name and account name. Now we can get both of these from the Snowflake platform. We can go back to the Snowflake page and then click on the bottom left profile here, and then go to account, and then scroll to our account. As you can see here, I'm in US West, and then if I click on view account details, I'm able to view my account information. So here I have my data sharing account identifier, which starts with the organization name dot the account name, and this is exactly what I need. So I'm going to copy this and paste it in the HubSpot UI, and then here I'm going to look for AWS US West, and now I'm ready to establish the connection. Now the last thing I need to do is to accept terms, which will prompt this marketplace page on Snowflake to open, and this will also trigger HubSpot to give you this button to install and start syncing data between the two platforms. So when I click install and then allow it, this is when the syncing between Snowflake and HubSpot starts. Few seconds, I can click on view connected apps, and I should be able to see that the Snowflake data share application has successfully connected. So now I can go back to my marketplace, and instead of request, I see that the button now says get. I can click on this, and it's a very, very straightforward process. It only asks you for the database name, and then which roles would you like to have access to this data product in addition to the account admin. I will keep it as it is for now, and then simply click on get. And that will make the data product immediately available for querying. I can click on query data, and this will also generate a new worksheet for me that will also include the usage examples that came along with this data product. So I can immediately start querying the data and just doing some ad hoc type of analytics. So from this point, we can work with this data product the same way we work with any other database on Snowflake. So if I go here to CRM platform data, I can see that it brought in two schemas via this share. The first one is called V2 Daily, and this schema refreshes on a daily basis. The second one is called V2 Live, and this one refreshes every 15 minutes. This schema contains the majority of the views that we need to build our models. It primarily contains information about associations between different objects, which define the relationships between, say, contacts and companies or contacts and deals. And then you have the events tables, which contain activity or customers' activity on a website, for example. And then, of course, lastly, you have the object tables, which contain the most crucial information around companies, contacts, deals, and other type of CRM information that you have available on HubSpot. Now that we have these views available, we can leverage Snowflake's scalable compute in order to create a transformation pipeline and then build a conformed model that can be fed into reporting tools and other types of applications, whether they're BI or AI. And so what I did here, I was able to create a bunch of bronze data sets that are based on top of the object views, and I used the association views in order to define the relationships between different objects. And from there, I created a couple of silver data sets, and then ultimately landed on a gold data set that contains all of the information that I need, and it's available with clean column names to be fed into a reporting tool or into other types of applications. Now, let's close the loop on the bidirectional data share and show how we can sync Snowflake data back into HubSpot. So let's start with the HubSpot UI again, and I'm going to search for Snowflake. But now, instead of going for this data share, I'm going to click on the other connector and then click on install. And this will prompt a simple, straightforward process as well. So the first thing we need to get is the Snowflake account identifier. So again, we can go to the Snowflake platform, click on the profile, go to our account, and then click on account details. And in this case, instead of asking for the data share account identifier, we just need to get the first one, which has a dash instead of a dot. So I'll copy this, and then I'll paste it here. And then we also need the Snowflake username, so you can simply type it in. And then another thing we need to do is grant this username a public key in Snowflake. So all you need to do here is copy this command and then go to a Snowflake worksheet and then simply paste it. And then here you can change the username with your actual username. And then you can simply run this command. And the last step you need to do here is to add this IP address into the allow list for Snowflake. So what that means is that we need to grant Snowflake access into our HubSpot IP by creating this allow access rule. So all you need to do is copy this and then paste it into a worksheet and change this with the HubSpot IP address. And then run this command in order to create this network rule. I already have this established, so I don't need to create this. So all I need to do is go back and then click on connect to Snowflake. And what this does is that it automatically creates a Snowflake connection. And next, we can continue to set up to create the syncing between Snowflake and HubSpot and define how we want our tables to be working together. To do that, I'll click on Set up your sync. And then here I want to point to my Snowflake tables. So select the database, the schema, and then choose which table you want to be syncing. So in this case, I'm looking at the contacts table, and I want it to be syncing with my contacts dataset here in HubSpot. Next, there are a few configuration steps. In this case, I don't want to do any record matching because I want to be pulling all of the records from my Snowflake table. In terms of the record ID, I already have my object ID in the Snowflake table, so I can just use that one. You also need to select a warehouse that's going to be running this syncing job, and then select the frequency at which you want to be refreshing the sync. In this case, I'm going to be doing every day. And then the last step of this configuration would be to add the mappings between the Snowflake column names and the attributes in HubSpot. So for example, in this case, we're looking at the contacts table, so we can match the property first name with the name here in HubSpot. And like that, you can create a relationship between different columns. Of course, you can add as many mappings as you like. And then the final step would be to just review all of these configurations and then simply initiate the sync job.